Welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. I'm JJ Flizanes, your host, and thank you for downloading today's episode. Welcome to the show. I wanted to publish this show on this channel today, even though it is slotted for women, men, and relationships. I wanted to share it here because it is a continuation of last week and a continuation of earlier this week, talking about love and relationships and healing and manifestation. And I just want to keep the momentum going to dig a little deeper and to really put you on the path of true healing and having courage and sharing with you sort of my vulnerable moments that I hope you appreciate. And normally, again, this show would only air on women, men, and relationships, but I'm airing it here for this very specific reason. We are in February. We're heading close to Valentine's Day, and I just want to be the bug in your ear to remind you that you do have more power than you probably practice, and to remind you of how we tick, and to really trust your intuition and notice and pay attention to the things that you need to truly heal yourself. Enjoy today's show. Welcome to Women, Men, and Relationships. I'm JJ Flizanes.
Are you really JJ Flizanes? Oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I am Doug Sandler. I'm excited. I get to do a show with the JJ Flizanes. Welcome to Women, Men, and Relationships.
Leave it to DJ Doug to lighten up the mood in a melancholy environment.
I heard that some listeners don't like me.
Okay, wow.
But I don't care.
Okay, first of all, no one said they didn't like you.
Oh, well, that's how I interpreted it.
Exactly, which would be your wound of what?
Oh, geez, my wound of chocolate ice cream? I don't know. What would it be? Why? Why don't people like me?
Honey, no one said that.
Oh, why am I thinking that people don't like me?
Right. Why are you? Because you...
Oh, is it the abandonment thing again?
Maybe not. Maybe it's the other thing.
I forgot what the jealousy thing?
Yeah, but it's a little deeper than jealousy. It's, again, sort of what we all struggle with.
They like you more than they like me? Well, that's a given.
No.
Wow.
No.
What is it? I
Okay,
just
this
hold
is a
on.
perfect segue.
Wait,
actually.
I went to the self-checkout aisle at Ralph's tonight. I'm just like, what? Self-checkout versus the cashier? What? Paper or plastic? What? Triplets versus...
I'm losing control of the show already. And
Wait, did you ever have control of the show?
I did before you ever came on board.
Oh, gee.
On
Okay.
episode 55.
All right, fine.
It's not about having control. We are going to have a really good, healthy discussion. Because, if those of you can hear my melancholiness, it's I really wanted to document, I really wanted to show the behind-the-scenes skeletons in the closet, not attractive, ugly cry.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
All that real stuff
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about or share or show.
Oh my gosh, I did all of those things just this morning. That was before coffee.
Okay, so let me back up. Yes, you do share some of that when it comes up and it's really surfaced for you. I went on a mission to dig a little.
Yeah.
I had a therapy session a couple days ago with the intent of sort of clearing some physical things to allow my body to sort of restore its vitality and healing in all areas. And one of the things that came up was some stuck energy around my solar plexus. Now, I work with someone who is also a medical intuitive, so there's more than just, this isn't traditional therapy. However, we did do a few traditional therapeutic things like EMDR, which honestly I haven't done in a long time. And I did a new form of EMDR that I've never done, and it was pretty powerful. It definitely was good. So today's show, I really want to talk about healing. And I really want to talk about the healing that a lot of you aren't doing. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I just mean that in the I'm not doing it as much as I could be way. You know, one of the benefits to manifesting Doug so quickly is that I got to feel joy, and I got to feel love, and I got to feel excitement and passion and a whole bunch of things that while I was a happy person, I hadn't felt so alive in such a long time. Now, the downside of manifesting exactly what you've been asking for so quickly
No healing so fast.
is that I did not have time to process my grief and my sadness and my disappointment and my frustration and my anger. And while I did do a lot of processing, I've never really shared the story, and I won't really. You only have to get it from me personally or in a live group session with me, just for the privacy of everybody involved, for as best I can do to protect it. I did have processing time before I manifested Doug, but I didn't have like really any space, like real space. I had no alone space. And while I was still doing some therapies when Doug came along, I didn't do as many because, again, I was really happy. And so you're not looking for your pain. And that's why a lot of us, and it wasn't like I went searching. I mean, goodness, we know the story. I think most people know that you called me within 2 hours of my husband and I talking about about separating, and he asked me if there was anybody else, and I said no, and that was the truth. But there wasn't any time past that to do any real, again, grieving in a this is for real kind of way. I had grieved before, but anyway, I went into this therapy session, and she knew what I wanted to do, but she said, "There's something here. What is it?" And I said, "Well, it's probably anger." Anger because of some of the, details of how this is all going to go down and how this is all going to sort of transition. And those details have been weighing on me a little bit. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No. I'm listening. I'm listening intently because I've been witness to this entire process. And up until these last couple of weeks when things started to get a little bit more, I don't know if the word is realistic, but I think that there was a different light that was shed on the entire environment. I think you showed a part of yourself that I haven't actually seen while you've been going through this divorce, and that was anger. I mean, I've seen other sides of your. I don't want to call it disappointment because that's a shitty word.
Yeah, I hate that word.
Yeah, I know you do. But I have seen. I've seen some anger from you, not directed towards me, but certainly towards the environment or towards your ex or whatever. And I think this is great. I think that for me, the microphone is always truth serum, and for me, the microphone is therapy as well. So I want to listen to I want to hear as you were before we hit record, and you said I want to start cataloging this and understanding this process. I agree with you. I want to hear. So I'm curious where you're going.
I just want to make sure because I could make this a solo show because it's my experience, but I do want to have this conversation with you, and I do want to share it with others because we did talk about it a little bit, but I wanted to wait to, again, put it here because it was ugly. And so when she said, "What is it? What's in your solar plexus?" I knew. And I had thought it was a little bit of anger and not being settled. And I did say sadness, but she said it feels more like sadness and disappointment. So mind you, I went in for some physical, like Reiki and energy work. And she said, "Do you want to clear that?" And I said, "Sure," thinking we were going to do it through physical work. And the benefit of the physical work is JJ does nothing, right? It's safer. You don't have to do anything. Someone else is doing the work for you. I love my healers, but sometimes when you do some healing work and others do it for you, it lets you off the hook. You don't have to face it. You don't have to do the work, really. You're being worked on. So, of course,
Of course, that's not what happened.
No. I laid down on the table, and the benefit was, so she said, "Do you want to do some EMDR?" And my favorite way to do EMDR, if you haven't heard the show I did on EMDR, there's several ways to do it. One of them is pulses in the hand. One of them is earphones with a tone that bounces back and forth. And then a lot of the times therapists will do it with your eyes open and you're following their fingers in a pattern. I prefer the fingers in a pattern because my eyes are open and I feel I can tap into my emotions a lot quicker. When my eyes are closed and I have headphones on and I'm laying still, I feel trapped. I feel like I'm in a coffin and I never can evoke the emotions quite as easily. So she said there was another way that I hadn't ever experienced yet, and it was music in the headphones. And she said it was soothing and it was nicer and more effective. So I said, okay. So I put the headphones on, and there's music and like specific music to go with these tones, because they're still the tones, and I could feel them. It's so interesting because EMDR is eye movement desensitizing reestablishment. And it really is supposed to be eye movement. And when you do the therapy, the point of the therapy is to disconnect. Okay, eye movement desensitizing. So you're desensitizing the thought that, or the trigger that causes like a neurological and electrical impulse and a fight or flight, your caveman brain, okay, so your reptilian brain that wants to protect you and go into sort of shock in your body. That's what we're desensitizing. And when it comes to emotional issues, right? Like, you're not going to die, and you want to really remove this pain and release this pain and this trigger. So I'm on the table, and she's also at the same time doing energy work on me. But she said to me, like, basically, we are following the energy line of my body. And I don't know if any of you've ever done any kind of energy work on yourself. In my 30-day manifestation challenge, which, by the way, the next one is in March, I do several meditations and visualizations, and one of them is a chakra clearing. And you really travel through your feet visually in your mind up to the top of your head and beyond. In Lisa Thomas's clearings, she also starts off with a sort of a meditation that you grab earth energy and heaven energy and you put it together, and it's a very, like, you feel it in your body. So if you've never done any body work, if you can just imagine, we're actually laying in bed right now, as we normally are when we're recording the show, and if you have your feet out and you're laying down, and let's say you have your hands beside you. Now, most of you are probably driving or doing something, so you can't do this.
Don't lay down if you're driving.
Right. But just do this next time you're laying down. Start to think about breathing in from the bottom of your feet, and try to follow like your energy meridians and your energy lines of your body all the way up your feet, through your legs, through your midsection, through your chest, through your neck, down your shoulders, out your fingers, and out your hands. And very quickly, you can tap into and really get in touch with your body's energy systems. And when you can feel, I can feel them right now, my feet are like spewing out energy and they're tingling, and so are my hands. Now, when you can feel that everywhere, you're an open channel. But a lot of times we have emotion that blocks this energy flow, this chi, what Chinese medicine would call chi. So she's doing a little bit of energy work on me. I'm trying to tap into it. It's sitting in my solar plexus. And by the way, I have neck pain. I'm also in here I haven't had an adjustment in weeks. I haven't had a massage in weeks. I haven't had acupuncture in weeks. And I have a bit of right neck pain. So I'm wanting to sort of, work on that. But some of this neck pain is emotional. So I went quickly into, as I lay on the table, I said to her, can you get me the Kleenex box? Because it was there. I knew exactly what it was. And so I went into, I don't even know if she asked me to think about, maybe she said to think about it. And so I started to think about it. And then the song, there's no words, but the music, I let myself cry. But what I noticed was I was laying on the table that was so interesting. If you've ever seen someone who smokes or someone who's an alcoholic who is upset, I've said this before on the show, I think. I had a friend years and years and years ago, an acquaintance who I would go dancing with, and she was a smoker, and I think something upset her once. Maybe a guy she liked was dancing with somebody else or flirting with somebody else, and like I was watching her, and she couldn't light the cigarette fast enough. The tears were starting to stream down her face. She was shaking, lighting the cigarette, taking that inhale, and then the tears stopped flowing. Couldn't have been more clear, not that I didn't know this at the time, but couldn't have been more clear that smoking is about repressing emotion. Same thing with drinking, and I think I've seen a couple movies, one of which Jennifer Aniston was trying to find the bottle because she was so anxious and so uncomfortable that she needed that drink to make herself feel better. Well, there are many ways that we check out when it comes to feeling our feelings. And what I noticed, and it's because it's because I don't feel completely safe with this person, this therapist. And I know that's going to sound weird, possibly. You'd probably say, why are you going to her? Well, she's got special powers and she sees things and she can clear some things. And I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I take what people are really talented at and I ignore the rest because I can do the rest. And while I could use a safer container, I also knew that I needed to do this. So I had to create the safer container for myself because I understood what was going on. But before I could allow myself to have an ugly cry, which is where we were going, because remember, people, when you have emotion and it hasn't been released, guys and girls, so women and men, when you have emotion that hasn't been released, the only ways it's coming out, literally, are yelling, doing something physical, like punching or throwing or running, and crying. That's it. That's how energy is going to come out of you. And I know that sounds like if you think, well, I don't cry or I never cry, well, that could be an indication. It could be an indication that you have a lot of stuck energy. So I knew I needed to cry it out. I was going to need to get it out. So I'm laying on the table and I'm crying. I have no problem with tears coming down my face. And I'm already halfway through the Kleenex box. But I can tell that I'm repressing the sound of it. And she said, there's a sound, let out the sound. But I kept swallowing. And I could tell that every time I swallowed, I was pushing the sound down. And again, it's because I don't feel completely safe with this therapist. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is completely safe, like I feel completely safe with Lisa Thomas. And she opens her mouth, I cry like a baby. So it's, an ugly cry, no problem. I've done that many times in front of her. But this person does different things and not the same things. So I needed to get it out of my body. So I'm laying there and she went into the inner child work and she asked what my 5-year-old would say. We went through that. What would your 5-year-old want to say now about why he left and blah, 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 and that stuff gets you really quickly. So I'm there doing this inner child work, but I'm still not letting out the sound. So she puts her hand on my throat area and chest. Not on my throat. She's not choking me. She pushes down on my sternum and my clavicles and just presses lightly. I take a deep breath. She presses down a little harder and out came the sound. And as this was happening, I could feel the tension and the ball of energy, if you will, move from my solar plexus up through my sternum and to really my right clavicle and my throat area. But it was moving and it was coming out and I was letting out so much energy. I actually felt lightheaded, like I was going to pass out. Now, I was laying down and I was crying. I had eaten. I don't think I had been starving myself until that point. Like I was fine. I had plenty of water. I've been detoxing kind of a little bit, not a lot, but I felt lightheaded. I felt like my head was going to explode, but I kept going because I needed it. It's super uncomfortable. And I don't think I've allowed myself since September's event. And that wasn't even that uncomfortable. I felt really safe in my room at the Next Big Step. And during one of the exercises, I had a really good ugly cry in front of the room. Mm-hmm. Okay, it wasn't that ugly, but it was
a good cry. It was a good circle cry.
Yeah, it was a good cry. But this one was just ugly cry because I'm not talking. I'm not explaining. I'm not in front of the room. I'm laying down with my eyes closed, with tones in my ears, and I'm just like letting out an ugly, ugly cry. And it was what needed to happen to release these feelings that I have. Now, mind you, at the same time, these tones are going on in my ear. And if you've ever done EMDR, I think to feel like it's a successful session is when the muscles in your eyes are tired because you've been moving your eyes. And that's part of that neurological brain chemistry, neuropathway thing that's happening when you're moving your eyes. Well, even though this was music, I could hear the tones underneath the music that were sort of coercing my eyeballs to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, even though my eyelids were shut. Because when I got out of there, not only did we took a good 10 minutes to get me down not get me down, but after we were done, I sort of rested for a little while, and then I sat up for a little while, then I walked around for a little while, then I had some water, but it was really getting out of a lot of energy. And I thought to myself, a lot of you aren't doing this. A lot of you go to therapy and you have a conversation with somebody and you figure it out in your head. You figure it out in your brain. You work it out. And I know, Doug, you've done the same thing. But part of the work, guys, to really, truly heal something, this is the work. And I've done this on other levels. I've been doing this for a long time. I just haven't done it in a while. And I haven't done it about the situation since April, really. I mean, I think I've had maybe 1 or 2 sessions since you and I got together. But I've been so happy that anytime I've needed to cry, it's either been in my own event, processing pain, or with you, processing pain. But I haven't really continued to dig for the grief a little bit. And why you want to dig for it is the same reason why you want to pull the weeds out at the roots in your garden. You just want to make sure nothing's going to come back up. You actually want to go down and get the root of it so that you actually pull it out, you transform it, you transmute it, and it becomes something new and different. It's not about reliving a story for the next 20 years that bring you pain. It's about uprooting that pain into what it really is supposed to be, doing the EMDR, doing the work that makes it then, I know where I am is where I'm supposed to be right now. And I understand that everything has been for a reason. In fact, she got to the place where she said to me, does your 5-year-old want to ask him why? Because when my 5-year-old was asking him or saying what she wanted to say to him, there wasn't a lot there. And I kept judging myself thinking, she's probably thinking, oh, JJ's controlling herself so much because she's not actually allowing her 5-year-old to really ask the questions. But I kept looking for the real question. And then when she said, does she want to know why? I shook my head and cried more. I said, no, she knows why. She knows exactly why, because of how much pain he has, how much pain he didn't know he'd need to feel. So much pain he thought would go away without having to unearth it and without having to express it again. So as I was going through this, I had a couple teaching moments in my mind. One was that another way, this is again why if you're an emotional eater, you're stuffing your emotions down. While I wasn't eating, I was swallowing. And I need to swallow to live. But the way that I was swallowing, every time I would swallow, I noticed it would push my crying down and it would push the sound down. And in a way, that was how I was repressing, not allowing myself to truly break open. Now, I let her break me open. I helped to break me open, but I needed it. And we all need it on different subjects throughout our lives because, guys, this is healing. It is not about finding the next partner. Again, I wouldn't have said, no, Doug, I'm sorry, this is not the right time. I need some time to grieve and I can't see you. I've been working up to this. I know what I manifested. He's everything I've asked for. It's on paper. I have proof. I've been doing this for years. So, of course, the universe said this is the time. Great. So at the same time, in case you do what we've done and you're going through something, the goal isn't just to find somebody new or find something new that makes you feel alive. You have to process this shit. And just because you move on to somebody else doesn't mean it's not still there. I mean, I've said it often to you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but, until you can stand in the same place that you were in before, like in looking at your ex-wife, being in the same position and have it not trigger you, that's when you're healed. Anything less than that is on the, time will help that get better. But the true test of healing is, can I say these words, do this thing, look at this person, have this conversation, repeat this, whatever, and feel different feelings. And, today is Super Bowl. And I met my husband at a party at Super Bowl 13 years ago. What's the date? 13 years ago. And we didn't do anything about the Super Bowl today. We don't even have a television that shows the Super Bowl.
The only reason we even watched the play was because it was on at the restaurant that we were at when we were eating dinner.
And I checked in with the fact that we didn't get invited to a party that I used to be invited to, and it didn't matter. I don't watch football. And I checked in with all that, and I was fine. I was fine with it. I guess part of me thought, you should be sad. And I thought, but I'm not sad. I'm not sad about that. But I still have some residual sadness that's continuing to be unearthed and continuing to, I'm not done yet. I'm still in this process, and I'm just writing it out. I'm allowing myself to feel the feelings. I asked you, when did I ask you this? I think last week I asked you, when your divorce was final, were you sad?
Was I sad?
Yeah. Were you sad?
I think to a degree I was sad, but it wasn't the same level of sadness as the day that she walked out. So, yeah, I think there was some sadness attached to it, but it was more of there was some finality to it at that point. And, you start reflecting, there hasn't been many moments since I've been here in California that I'm completely out of my environment. I'm from the East Coast and I'm out on the West Coast. There's nothing here to remind me of her. There's no, and that's okay with me. I think it would have been more challenging had I remained in that environment that entire time. But I also don't think that it's just me just discounting everything that I don't think it's just me being separated that has caused all of this healing that I've been able to do in the last, let's see, I moved here in June. So in the last, 7, 8 months, I think a lot of it is taking a deeper dive into my feelings, taking a deeper dive into my wounds, understanding what my wounds are, understanding what my trigger points are, understanding all of the things that I've been able to do over the last several months that I just had no idea I was going. I've said this many times before on this show, is that I just feel like I was going through life so unconsciously, and now that I'm at least feel much more conscious, doesn't mean that you can't feel sad. Just means that recognizing when you feel sad, understanding where those feelings are coming from, and not blaming. As you're not blaming your ex, I'm not blaming my ex for what has happened. I mean, it took both of us to get there, to create that bad marriage that we had. Yeah, I could say, well, why did she walk out? And yeah, I could be mad and angry and upset with her, but I don't know. There was some level of sadness, but again, not the same as when we separated to begin with almost a year ago now. So that's where I am.
You haven't done EMDR yet, right?
No, the two doctors, therapists that I had gone to, one of them said I didn't need it, and the other refused to do it, and I don't even understand that because. I don't know. Maybe I just need to see somebody to do EMDR and just say I am not leaving this room until EMDR is done on me. Why would that have been the case?
Did John say you didn't need it?
John said I didn't need it.
Okay. Interesting. Can I talk to John?
Absolutely. John was my second therapist, by the way. The first therapist.
Don't mention.
I won't. Okay. Of course, okay. I won't mention his name.
Thanks. So. Yeah. So here's one of the reasons why I wanted to share this, and we're a couple days out from when I did this. I was pretty raw, obviously, the other day, and there are still tears. There definitely are still tears, but they're less. I'm a little lighter, and I will continue to be lighter, hopefully. And it's how the process goes. But I know as I was laying there, going through this, recognizing that. A lot of people walk into an office like that and won't play because they are uncomfortable. And they'll make the excuse that it's about the therapist or it's about the method or it's about being uncomfortable, or they'll cough or they'll get sick to get out of it. You will take yourself out when you are not comfortable. And again, getting sick is how a lot of people do it. Being tired, having some kind of crisis, having some kind of excuse. I want you to notice that about yourself. And I want you to notice that, I did a show that a lot of you I know listen to about, it was called Emotional Detoxing. It was with my client, Susan, and she calls it Healing Day. And since then, I've had many of you reach out because you want me to customize a healing day for you. And isn't it interesting that I hadn't taken a healing day for me? And not that that was a healing day, because I only went to an hour therapy session, but Doug wasn't home when I got back. I took a bath. I took a nap.
You kept saying, when are you coming home? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. You know what's interesting about it? Something kept me out of the house all day. How many times have we spent the entire day apart?
Not very many.
Not very many. But, it was nice. I got in my car. I had some errands to run. I'm like, I'm just going to, and we kind of established that earlier in the day.
Well, I thought you were going to go to like 2 stores and come home. You're never out all day.
I did go to 2 stores. Just took me a little 3 hours at each store.
Right. It was all, and I'm glad it worked out the way it worked out. I wish I would have known, because then I might have journaled a little bit more. I might have allowed myself to have more of a healing day, because the energy, I didn't leave there completely clean. The energy had kind of moved up. It's still in my throat. It's still in my neck a little bit. And I think last night it moved my hip. But as I'm laying there, literally crying so hard that I want to pass out while I'm laying down on the table, it's not like I was driving or anything or even sitting up, but I was thinking, this is my healing day, JJ. You need a healing day. And wow, yep, you need one too.
And maybe you should take an intentional healing day instead of one that just happened to transpire, one that just happened to be.
And I probably will do that on the 16th of February, when you are not here. Or even on the 17th, actually. Maybe I'll do that's on a Sunday. That could actually even be better, because Sunday could be a sacred healing day for me. Anyway, the whole point is, the reason I wanted to share that show too is because, again, how many times do you take time out of your life to schedule space to let your feelings out and to really nurture yourself in that way? We don't do it. So don't be surprised. Don't fool yourself when you're going through your life and and I'm not saying you're not busy, between work and kids and a spouse potentially, or dating, or parents you may take care of. I get it. Everyone's busy. I'm busy too. But you can't outrun your feelings, is what I'm going to say. You can't outrun your problems, and you can't outrun your pain. You can stuff it, you can numb it, you can avoid it, but it will show back up again. You will manifest ways in which it wants to show you it's time to deal with it. What I did enjoy, I want to loop this back in and finish the show out with a little teaser for the next week, which is about our Imago therapy. And we didn't talk about this with Michael because we just didn't. But I want to share one of the points. Well, first let's talk about like the positive stuff. What do we really like before I tell you the one thing that I really disagree with. But what's the one thing that what are a couple things? Because 95% of it I'm all about. Maybe even, 95% I can say roughly I'm 100% behind. So, Doug, what were some things you really like and appreciate about Imago?
One of the things that I loved about Imago so much was the absolute connection, the dialogue, the scripted dialogue that forces you, and not that we need to be forced to communicate, but it forces you to face each other eye to eye, toe to toe, belly to belly, forces you to focus on the communication, the words that you say, and creating the space needed for one partner to talk and the other partner to listen. No response, no response other than mirroring, but no problem solving, no resolution, because the resolution when you communicate is not in the words that your partner is saying. The resolution is all from within. So the dialogue for me was the best part of Imago.
The scripts?
Yeah, the scripts. Exactly.
There were probably 3 or 4 practices, and they're pretty much all scripted. And I did also appreciate the script because it creates a safe environment to have these conversations. It also starts off with an affirmation, which is a great way to obviously start out any conversation. It also links back the feelings and the issue, if there is an issue, to something that happened in your childhood. So I appreciate the acknowledgement of where it's rooted from. So that's all, and the awareness of where it's rooted from. In fact, I had I had an awareness and I cried. I didn't even know. I didn't write it. Do you remember that? It was on Sunday, I think.
No, tell me. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to go back and look at it. But I remember that you said, tell me, is there more? So there's a phrase after you ask for whatever you're asking for, is there more? Is there more to that? And then you mirror back, is there more to that? And that's like digging deeper. And so I think you asked 2 or 3 times, is there more to that? And there kept being more. And I really started to cry because I remember linking it to something I didn't even realize. And again, it's simple stuff. So I also appreciate the Imago scripts because we did witness the room's energy change throughout the couple of days. Although we don't know who in that room was there to see Harville and Helen. We don't know who in that room knew anything about the work ahead of time. I definitely know a few of them checked out and did not come back because they were not ready to do any of it, and they didn't ask for any support while they were there because there were, facilitators in the room who were helping people. One gay couple, I think we mentioned this last week, they didn't even do one of the practices, and then one of the practitioners pulled them and said, "Let's do this." Or Harville said, "Hey, you guys, get some help. Take one of these people." And then they worked it out, and then they were good. And they were having breakthroughs and ahas, for the rest of Saturday and then Sunday. And they were completely different energetically leaving. So we'll go over a little bit more. We've got a whole CD set or DVD set from them that they want us to take and teach and have workshops. And, we're going to practice it more, and we're going to go through it and figure out what we think is what we like, what works for us, and share it with you and share how to do some of the things and have you practice either with your spouse or with your friends or with yourself in the mirror, because honestly, having these conversations with yourself, it can be good too. But the one thing that I'll see that we'll talk about next week, the one thing that I did not agree with, but again, didn't let it stop me, didn't throw out the whole therapy because they said something that just it doesn't agree with me. It's fine.
Nor should it. Nor should it.
But there's too many times, and I've done this in the past, where if I feel like you don't reflect everything I'm about, then I go, oh, maybe I'm done with you now. Or maybe this is the end of the road because I can't continue if we don't agree on this one thing. And I'm not saying that to sound like I get rid of everybody. That's not the point. But this is a pretty big foundational point. And on the flip side, I think that's completely appropriate in certain areas. I don't want to be around people who think that they have no control or they have no influence over their life choices and the circumstances that they get themselves in. If people do not understand that they're the creator of their own reality and they think they're just a victim to everything, I don't want to be around those people. Okay, that is a conscious choice of discernment, and I prefer not to be around victims if I can possibly help it. I can be loving to a certain extent, but I don't want you as an intimate partner. I don't want you as a best friend. I don't want you as a person that I spend lots of time with.
And think about the relationships as you're listening to this. Think about the relationships that you have in your life. Those that are very positive and those that are tend to be a little bit more negative. Not that you want to be involved in somebody that's negative, but if you look at the negativity in a relationship, almost always you can come back to a partner or a guy friend, a girlfriend, a boyfriend or a girlfriend that tends to be a victim. A lot of negativity comes from those that feel victimized by the world. They have a negative attitude because everything that happens to them because they think they're looking at the world through a glass half empty, and that they're. It's not just they're a pessimist. They think that things are happening to them. Things happen to everybody, but it's how you react to the things that are happening to you that is so important. So anyway, you didn't make your point, though.
Well, yeah, I was kind of setting it up for the end here, which is that I think Helen had said it, that they, because the Imago community is pretty large. There are therapists all over the world, and I think they had discussed that they came to the consensus, I'm not going to say they all agreed, that they didn't believe that your true deepest core wounds could be healed. Now, I disagree with that completely. And as far as I know, I didn't ask them about that, and I don't want to ask them about that on the show. He's 83. She's probably not too far away from 83. It doesn't matter if they believe it or don't believe it, their presentation and their therapy keeps expanding and changing. He brought in quantum physics. And you saw, most of you hopefully heard the show with Harville and I from last year. It was awesome. I loved every part of it. I had no problem with any part of it. I talked about astrology. I talked a little about law of attraction. He talked about neuroplasticity in the brain. He talked about the deepest wound that you have is your partner. That's an opportunity for you to make yourself whole. So I don't know how he can say by giving your partner what they need, the thing that is the hardest for you to do is also helping you restore your wholeness. He said that. And he said it. Did you not hear him say that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how you can say that and then tell me that you can't heal your wounds. They don't go together. Because the point then becomes that this is a spiritual practice, and my relationship is therefore a spiritual practice to help restore my wholeness. That is what I heard. So to me, it's contradictory to say that, then to make a statement like, can your wounds ever really be healed? So this could just be semantics. And
I mean, I think you're always going to have a scar. I don't think that he would totally disagree with you when you say your wounds can't be healed. I think that your wounds you can get out of critical, and you could move into intensive care. You could move to stable, and then you could move to good condition or great condition. But if you come back to it, I think you always have that. You're always going to have not the wound, because a wound when I think of wound, I think that's something that's still open. When I think of but there are plenty of scars from open wounds that have stood the test of time, and at the end of 10 or 15 or 20 years, or 40 or 50 years, you can go back and you could say, oh my gosh, that's so true. That is exactly why I feel abandonment. I don't have the same emotional reaction to it as I did before, but I still realize that it was something that was created during my childhood.
I agree with what you just said. I want to add to that in that I think a lot of people still react the same way to circumstances because their wounds aren't healed. And so, therefore, I would say the majority of people aren't necessarily going to heal their wounds because they aren't going to do the other kinds of therapies needed to heal the wounds. And that would be EMDR, hypnosis, and even what Harville's talking about. I mean, what they talk about in their own therapy, which is by overcoming, stretching yourself into doing what you need to do for your partner that feels the most uncomfortable to you, to literally, because of the brain, create new neural pathways in your brain and restore your own wholeness. So anyway, it's one of the points that when I heard it, I thought, nope, don't agree with that, because I could see dynamics in them even, right? That weren't stuff that wasn't healed. I see that in relationship, you can have a successful, passionate friendship and relationship through the work that they do and never feel the need to flee from your partner. But if we're compensating for someone's insecurity, that's a whole different story. And that's where, while they focus on the couple and how that you can heal in relationship, and I agree with that, I still think that there's an individual's job. If you're someone who has trauma and PTSD, you have some deep wounds, and yes, they can be healed. That's what EMDR was created to do with PTSD, would be to take somebody who's got PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and again, desensitize that trauma. And I think, yes, on the level of, your wounds in the past, you're never going to forget it. But it's different when you can, and I've done this, which is why, and I've seen other people do it, which is why I don't agree with it. When you can take something that's happened to you and transmute it. And we've talked about that on this show, I believe, as well. When it becomes something, you can change your relationship with it through therapy through therapies that you can do now. When you can understand what happened from different levels, from spiritual levels, from sacred contract levels, from the level of the person who you think wronged you or betrayed you, when you understand the bigger picture of the lesson you were supposed to learn, when you can appreciate the life that you have because of the negative thing that happened, all of those things can help you look back at something with appreciation instead of pain. And when you are different in the same situation, healing has occurred. So that would be the one sticking point. And we actually met a couple who we'll be having dinner with here shortly. And they were really funny because the husband or the boyfriend came up to me and thanked us, Doug and I, for being so vocal and ready to participate in ways that everybody else was too shy or afraid to do.
We were meant to be up on stage.
I said, well, we're normally used to being in front of the room, so we were fine. And being vulnerable in front of a group of people we don't know, not a problem.
No problem at all.
But he had heard me mention Abraham and was intrigued by that. And then I sort of threw out there that I didn't agree about the healing, and he didn't either. He and his girlfriend did not. They were with us. They were with me, and that they didn't necessarily agree. So whether it be the younger generation, people who've studied other people's works and taken the best of each of them and put them together. I mean, Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief. I will definitely need to contact that man and have him on the show. But I believe that theory would also prove that you can change and you can heal your wounds. So Dr. Eben Alexander, that's another person I'd love to have on the show. And he changed his wounds by dying and transitioning and having a near-death experience and coming back, and everything was different. So not that I'm going to suggest everyone try to have a near-death experience, but it is all possible. So hopefully today...
Certainly does help change perspective a little.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that's part of the healing process, changing perspective, because you're telling a story and that story is not true. That story is one side and one perspective and one version of what happened to you. It is not everyone's version.
Anatomy of a belief. Anatomy of a thought, sorry.
Emotions.
Yeah, sorry. Wow. Where am I? Yes, anatomy of an emotion. It's just it's amazing as you go through that. Everything that you do is put through this filter, and it's just the story that you're telling yourself. There's nothing other than the story, the interpretation of everything. I mean, think about it. When you get a text message, as you're listening to this right now, and you get a text message from somebody that you may get along with sometimes, you may not get along with them all the time. When you're reading that message, how many different stories? I mean, I do this all the time with the messages that my mom sends me. It's like, okay, what is she thinking? Okay, how is she telling, what is the story that she's telling herself to be able to believe what she's believing? Or how am I believing? How am I interpreting it? What filter am I placing on this? And how am I thinking about this? It is just amazing it's something as simple as a text message or an email, as you read them, how many times you misread or misinterpret the words that were said on that piece of paper. It's the same way with your thoughts. It's all in the story that you're telling yourself.
You did at the top of the show when you said you found out some people don't like you.
Right, exactly.
And no one ever said that. There's no paper trail of anyone saying, I don't like Doug.
Sometimes I like to keep my stories this way. It keeps me humble.
Just being a victim because you think it makes you funny. This is your self-deprecation.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
Maybe a little.
Well, I hope today got you thinking about...
As long as you love me.
As long as I love you, then you're worthy.
You do love me, don't you?
I do, but I'm going to.
I was the perfect cap on that.
Negotiate a little EMDR for you and some serious therapy
for
a little while.
I would love to do it. I would love to. Okay. Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, I think before you and I can conduct any real workshops together for couples,
especially that
you have to catch up a little with, I want you to do some hypnosis, do some EMDR. I want you to dive into your wounds.
I am ready.
All right, good.
I am ready. Right, I am diving in like Greg Louganis. Let me put my Speedo on. I'm ready to dive.
Okay, that joke did not land on me, but that's okay. Hopefully it landed on some of you. So the point of today was to really reiterate what Susan and I talked about on Healing Day. Emotional detox, the fact that it's ugly, guys, but it's like the storm. Don't avoid the rainstorm. It will pass, but it has to, if you look at the physics of rain, the moisture from the air and the water going up into the clouds, like there's an end point. And if your gas tank is full, if your heart and chest and your digestive system and your lower back and your neck have had enough, they will tell you, your body will tell you, it's time to unload some of this pressure and feelings that you've been trying to repress. You cannot run it. So might as well not just stop. So whether that be that you come and we have some sessions and we figure out a healing day for you, that's jjflizanes.com/healing day, which I'm happy to do. You just have to be willing to commit that.
Do you have a link on your website now for the healing day?
It's just the 2 sessions with me, but it's an
it's
easy
a great
way.
idea.
It's an easy way to get there.
What a great idea. Can you design a healing day for me too?
Absolutely.
Do I have to
can.
go to the website or can we
Oh my
about
goodness,
it?
we can talk about that. But you might have to pay.
Shoot,
I'm just kidding.
What, I'm not paying already?
I'm kidding.
I'm paying. I'm paying.
jjflizanes.com/healing day, and that would be to get your personalized emotional detox / healing day set up. And also, I want to remind you, if you are manifesting a lot of things that you don't want, the next free 30-day manifestation challenge starts March 1st.
And we got big news, so you better hurry and register for that soon. We're not going to share the news today, but just know there is news coming for JJ.
Okay. So that link, let's see, I made a new link. But you can go to jjflizanes.com and click on the free tools and resources, but I did make a new link for this new group of people that we're inviting to do this. I think it's jjflizanes.com/30-day. Yeah, that's what it is. jjflizanes.com/30-day, 30-day. Try that. And I'm pretty sure it works. And that will get you to the page to sign up for the free manifestation challenge. And again, starts March 1st. Need to be registered by February 25th. But that is about practicing a vibration that manifests and attracts and gets you into alignment with the things that you want. Not the things you say, but the thing, you can say you want something, but until you are in the same frequency of it, you ain't going to get it. So we got to practice elevating that frequency, cleaning up your vibration, and feeling and activating positive momentum more often. Anything else, Doug?
I think I might have been a little too quiet this episode. Could we just do it all over again?
And that's a wrap. We'll see you next week.
See you guys next week. Love y'all.